Welcome to Leadership, Love and Laughter, where we dive into the unspoken truths in life and business. I'm Natalie Potts.
And I'm Victoria Dio.
Let's go!
Hello there. Welcome to Leadership, Love and Laughter. My name is Victoria Dio and you are?
Natalie Potts.
Hey, we're back. We're back. And today we are talking about
Money.
Money. So talk to me, Nat, because I know that you have just ran a challenge around money. We've been talking about it. We've both been reading books about it. I think I've suggested books to you. You suggested books to me. What does money mean to you?
Money is a tool, simply. Boring. It's an exchange and it allows me to do more in the world to help more people and make a difference. That's the way I see it, as a tool to help me do what I want to do in life.
Interesting.
You?
I see money as a facilitator and I see money as energy. So is that whole thing where, especially as somebody who's predominantly in the energy space or heart-centered space, a lot of people in my way of work feel very reluctant to charge.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is that the energetic exchange between money actually will propel the business and what you're doing even further than giving stuff away for free. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I see money. So I see money as I think without money, there's a lot you can't do. But in my life, the way I've manifested stuff, I've manifested the stuff without money, if that makes sense and stuff. And we'll go into that a bit more detail.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting doing a challenge into a course, into talking to people, whether it's clients coming aboard or just people in general, getting feedback. The phrase around like divorcing emotion from money, from their business has become quite apparent because we're very emotionally charged when it comes to money. And actually, if we think about relationships as well, there's probably all relationships in some way, there's probably conversations around money that can get quite heated on things as well, and quite centered. So it goes back to the importance of awareness with this, intuition, which we'll come to, but also the money story that you've had and where those beliefs are formed, and actually even any kind of beliefs we have. This is what it made me realise doing more groundwork on it myself, is that those beliefs are formed at some point. You know, we make right and wrong based on our beliefs. And the self-awareness to all of that is so important with every call we're making in business. And I guess a fundamental part of emotion for me is that I don't think it's right, you should be making decisions in your business from an emotional standpoint. So it's important to understand where that's coming from as well, if it's related to money and other things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. And just to add on to that, I think it's also, so we're talking to leaders here in business and also in corporate as well. So if you're not self-employed, so anybody else, we all have to deal with money at some point. And it's also sort of like what you accept, you know? So I know people who have been on like 20 grand for 10 years and they've settled for that and they can't see a way beyond that, if that makes sense. But, you know, funnily enough, I was listening to something today and as I was listening to it, I was like, this is what I talk about to my audience. Is that whole thing where from the moment you're born, from the moment you're conceived, so you're conceived based on the energy from your dad and from your mum.
Yeah.
Whatever your life plans out to, whether you're adopted, whether you stay with your birth parents, whatever, you do have, you know, you have a mum or a dad, or even if it's artificial or whatever and stuff, there is a sperm and an egg that comes into it. And that energy holds a lot more than what we give it credit for. So for example, if your parents, one parent for example, was born or lived a life or is from a generation where money is a taboo, like you're scared to talk about money. I remember going to my dad once and asking him how much he earned, and my dad said, oh, it's rude to talk about money. And that's had a huge impact on me and stuff, because, you know, even now when I ask somebody something, like I'll say to you, I go, well, if you don't mind me asking and stuff, how much was that and stuff, like I'll always, like I still sort of like have that tension when it comes to money. Meanwhile, I know other people who will literally, like a friend's dad, he'll just put like $3,000 on the fireplace and stuff, and it's nothing. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, it's interesting. I don't, and I guess sometimes it can come across a bit rude. I was at an event the other day, and I was talking about investments I make in my business and what I've done. And I guess, look, if you even brought together, you think of even education, university, and everything, definitely like over 100K when I think of that. And, you know, and I substantially invest in the right mentors as well.
Completely.
And I've done that in masterminds. And somebody was talking about the investment they're making, and it was kind of like going around the houses. And I was like, look, this person was £20,000 for a day. And they're like, oh my God. And I was like, but look, and then I felt like, oh, I clearly can't ask this person. And she's like, oh, well, I'm investing nowhere near that. And I thought, I can't ask them then what they are investing in somebody. But then I felt a bit like, well, why shouldn't I? Like, I feel it's rude to ask her. And she feels that maybe, because I'm thinking, is she thinking it's rude I'm asking? But I just see it very logically, and I'm logical anyway in that side of things. But I see it very like, but it doesn't really bother. I'm not saying it from a place I'm going to judge you. I'm just asking so I can get a bit of perspective on things to think about, you know, making the right decisions and things and where people are at. I guess there's a lot of judgment caught up with that, with fear as well. And I know the fears, I think I always kind of comes down to its default fears of, you know, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment. And judgment also is caught up with rejection. So I think that them probably sharing that with me thinks I'm gonna judge them and stuff. It's like, it's not like, and it doesn't, just because I might make a decision to invest a lot of money like that. Even if I did invest £20,000 a day with somebody, and I would, but it has to be the right opportunities and everything.
You need to know what you're going to get from it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess for some people it just does. It's never ever even been on a table. Let's alone to think about as an option. And I get that, and I think that comes from exactly like you said, when you know a certain amount of money, and it is limited to you. If you know you've only earned 20 to 30, and I say the only part there, but that's reality. Then the art of the possible and seeing what else is out there in the world, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what's possible because you're just not exposed to that. And the same with that, like if you don't know that you can invest in something for £20,000 and what the opportunities are, like you're never going to do it. That's why I think it's always healthy to have conversations and know, and that's allowed me to have less emotion to money.
Yeah. And do you know what? I mean, you and I have no secrets around what we invest in in our personal development. And last year we spent a lot.
Yeah. But actually important on that as well, I think the relationship we have, and this is where we're bringing again like how we get on, is it's not for everybody this at all, but we are quite open about when, like today, I was like, this was my sales this week and things. Like, we will talk about that. We don't hide together. It might look a bit sometimes, I think anybody can make anything that's smoke and mirrors online or any world actually. You could go to a cocktail party and it could be exactly the same and you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But we are generally quite honest with each other. And I think that's the point, is finding great relationships. You don't have to tell everybody, but have those ones where you can be honest with people, and you don't have to get to a dark place where, like I said, the emotional side is money can lead to dark places too. You know, having conversations with people say like, it's tough right now, or this isn't working. It's not about always you. It's just, it's a situation of something, and it's healthy to talk about it.
And I think exactly. So it's like being able to have a conversation around money and get rid of the fear. Just practicing out with someone that you know is never going to judge you. Because here's the thing, you know, we've both spent five figures last year on masterminds. I was in a mastermind as well, actually. I keep forgetting that I was in one. But you know, normally it's based on the result you're going to get. If you can really align with the result that you want, then you'll spend it. And people forget that. People just see the amount rather than the end result. And it's like, but I know what this person can do for me. I mean, we're even talking about, because you and I met kind of amongst other places and stuff, but we did meet in a mastermind where you were talking about the benefits that still gives you when you're conducting your business. And here's the thing and stuff, it's like, it's made it so that you've been able to create a 5-figure sum this week. And it's allowed me to create a 4-figure sum this week and stuff. So it's like, you have to you have to look at it from the benefit rather than just the money.
Yeah.
The money is just the
Yeah.
exchange of somebody's time. Is that whole thing is, if I can help you bring in £1 million a
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
you're going to give me 20 grand
Yeah.
to spend a day with me, because
Yeah.
in relation
100%.
to what you're going to bring in,
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer at the end of the day.
But that even leads me to think about like the discussion we had earlier around, again, the importance of great relationships in any business capacity,
Yeah.
whether you're in corporate world or in your own business, whatever, is that time for money is very different. And that big freaking trap of money
Yeah.
was really hard for me to overcome leaving the corporate world of, I work these hours or I work, quite a few more, but I get this, or I get that because I've committed, I'm recognised more for my efforts. I get the promotion, and then the success seems linear. So then I go for the next promotion, and I work a bit harder, a bit more, a few more hours. Then to leave that and then go into your own business. And actually, my story is always caught up in school was, and actually my parents, but in a good way. But like, you work hard, you get a good job. You get a good job, you get more money.
Same here.
And that was always, okay, if I work hard, I get more money. And it showed to be true. I had evidence to back that up. And that's like anything, go and get evidence for it to be the opposite as well. And then I left that. And then it's like, well, if I work all the hours of my business, then you're like, oh, it's not happening. It's not the same, because time and money. So good week is this week. And I'm to other people, I'm like, this is not a week.
Yeah.
This is months of work. This is months of stress, tears, relationship building, nurturing, going again, failing, successes. It's constant.
Yeah, but equally, one of the first things you said to me is, I'm knackered.
I am knackered.
You're knackered and stuff. So then all of a sudden you go, oh, well, my parents' right. Does that hard work equals that? And stuff. And I think we confuse hard work with taking action. Yeah. Like, you do need to work. You do need to put in the effort. You do need to work hard.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because I've had a few conversations around that this week as well, that the fact of, and I went to a networking event in London, which was epic, because you just get out of your head and you meet new people that are, real. And I think that's what I liked about this certain space I went to. That, again, online and sometimes get into a position. I remember being a leader as well, and people looking at me, oh, it's easy when you are where you are. That attitude. It's like, no, like, I've worked, hard for it. But like, I hate sometimes when I've heard myself say stuff like, I've deserved this. But it's like, but I have worked hard for that, and people do work hard for things. And it is hard building a business. It is hard. It is a level of grind. I do believe we can work smarter, sometimes not harder, but don't default these things to, make them crystal black and white. Like, we have to know that stuff is challenging, it's hard. And there are certain times in all levels of business where you've got to adapt and be agile. I worked for one corporate, and they got complacent around money. They got complacent around everything and how they operated, and it impacted the business. And that's the same that can happen with anybody. Yeah. So you need that. Again, it goes back to your self-awareness part, but it isn't easy at times. Yes, I think there are ways where money can flow easier than we allow it to. And we put a lot of blocks on it as well because of what we're sharing. But I think we just, overall, it's the ability to see things with a good perspective of being a realist as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. Before we became leaders, employees, business people, whatever you want to call us, before we became those, we're humans first. Yeah. So you have, and I'll go back to the ancestral trauma around money, where you do have the blocks, where you don't have this levels of self-awareness, and where you come from a place of lack. Yep. Yeah. And it's important that we learn about this, because I think now, and I'm not a mum, so I can't really attest to this, but I do know that I think there is some level of financial education going on at the moment, maybe not as much as parents would like. And I think we need to talk more about money to be able to address the ancestral trauma. So I see it in my family, right? I'm from an African family where if there's an event, you all muck in, okay? As opposed to a British family where if your parents are doing an event, you turn up. You turn up and, you turn up physically. In an African family, you turn up financially, you turn up physically, like you've got to muck in. And sometimes it's a really difficult conversation to be had because not everybody's in the same place financially, but you get told, well, here's the budget, this is what we're doing, and this is what we need to do. And you can really tell the tension when those conversations are being had. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, tell me and stuff, with your family, what's it like?
I think that it's like you can grow up in the same household and be very different on everything.
100%.
And I think you have to be respectful, and I think you have to be compassionate is probably the word.
Yeah.
Is really key, because I know if I take my brother and I for an example, our just reality of life and how we see the world is very different.
Yeah, 100%.
And actually, if you don't have compassion to say, well, we just see things differently, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think there's a bit that we have to let some stuff go quite a lot.
Yeah.
And more than, I think in business as well, we have to let more go than we do.
Yeah.
And like we can't do everything and be everything for everybody.
No.
And yeah, so certainly from that side of things, I'm very like my mum and dad. But then I'm also conscious that I make different decisions to them. My dad often says, like, you've got more belief than I ever had. You take bigger risks than me. And that's tough, because then when I look up to my parents, as I do, and I always have, and I like that, but I'm aware of it in making my own decisions. But I definitely take bigger risks than they did. But then my family situation is different. I've been on my own for a lot longer. I haven't got a family in that way. I've got now Tom, who I'm with in a relationship, but when you don't have kids and that level of responsibility, that changes the dynamic in the scene as well.
Yeah. And
I remember my dad once, when we were kids, had an incredible opportunity when it was just in time of building big internet, like the internet really big. I mean, I remember dial-up, so this is why I say that. But he had an opportunity to leave the corporate world and do this. And it was one of those, he goes, it's such a big risk. He didn't take it, but he goes, and it was massive, but he said it was too much of a risk for him to take at the time of a family. But it was one of those, again, with money, of we could have this, we could have that. But actually also the coming back to parts of what is money to you, what do you want it for, like I said at the start, because that's an important point. And money, when I say doesn't make you happier, well, okay, but it makes you stressed as well, right? So
it's
again, it's the emotions caught up with it. No, it doesn't bring you more happiness all the same. I'd rather have family and friends and what I've got. And that's not always wrapped around money, but it also can bring you a lot of stress and stuff as well. So let's not say it doesn't bring you happiness, because it can bring opportunities, it can bring different experiences that we love.
Yeah, and so here's the thing, and so it's like I've definitely took more risks than my parents, and they've all they'll look at me and go, how can you just walk away from an opportunity and do it's almost like they just think you're crazy. But then because you're their child, they have to trust your judgment and pray that it all works out well. But one of the things that I've noticed, especially so in the corporate world, I've noticed that if you have this block around money, and here's the thing, we all have blocks around money. Nobody is free from it. It's just how often you work on it to be able, you know what I mean? It's almost like having therapy around money so that when it shows up and stuff, you can have that conversation, like, asking for more money at work, asking for a pay rise, deciding whether to go for a different job. So I know people who have stayed in the same job. They've stayed in the same job because they like the people that they work with, which I'm thinking is brilliant. But I'm like, but that's not going to get you to the other dream of, maybe managing people and having a 6-figure salary. Sometimes you have to take risks. Or you've got business people who literally will charge based on their wounds. So it's like, so the whole charging against your wounds. So what is your wound? Your wound is sort of like what shows up, because it's almost like your shadow. It's like the back, the pain that you're in subconsciously. And when you're charging, you're charging based on what has happened to you subconsciously, rather than actually the service that you're delivering or the end result that you're trying to serve. So for example, if I just go, there's this product that I'm selling and it's $5,000, And it's all based on the fact that maybe I've got debt that I need to pay off.
Yes.
You know, and stuff. It's like, well, I've got £5,000, just because somewhere along the line, one of your wounds may be that you can't manage money, or you don't feel like you deserve much, so you've not created enough abundance for yourself. So now it's catching up with you. So you're putting this stuff out, and people can feel it energetically.
Yeah, 100%.
How you're charging.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think the whole money thing, it's a lot more deeper than probably what we're going to go into, but I think what we're doing is alluding to things so that you can go away and think about it. And also, I think what we should do as well, because we've read a number of books between us, is to maybe sort of like put these, when we launch this, so that you can actually see what books are available.
There's a few things there. First, we're here to normalise things as well and share our story and our perspective, and everyone's will be different. Yeah. And it's to open your mind and challenge people to think. And I think that we also sometimes live in a world where we're just throwing stuff at us the whole time. And it's like, well, what do you think on that? Like, you've got a brain, use it.
Yeah.
So I think there's that level that's good. There's a couple of things coming up. I remembered, to be back, I know I was sitting this environment, like very much in corporate world, with one of my managers, and I got tugged because I went to his boss about a pay rise, and he was like, "Why didn't you come to me?" And I said, "Because I asked you and you said no, and I didn't hear no. I wanted the pay rise, and I'd had good pay rises before. So I remember my biggest one was like 25% once, because no one wanted a certain role because of the legality side behind it. And I was like, I'll do it, but this is what I want, and I got it. And I very much think, you attract what you are, and if you're an arse for the sale, if you're an arse, you don't get. 100%. I see that, and like again, that's where I can divorce emotion. It's like, this is what I want. How do I get it? And that tenacity's always served me quite well. So it doesn't always, obviously. But I think that I always had the idea in corporate, like, I just went for it and asked until I was told no. And then I keep going, well, how do I do it next time? And I go again. But also with that, I'm often asked, leaving that world and taking the big leap and a jump, like that is a big thing. And I didn't see it that much at the time. And lots of people wait a whole year or two before they ask for any help, thinking they can kind of do it because they should be, like, again, confidence, ego, whatever, they should be able to do it. Like, I knew, I guess that was one thing that I was good at, was I knew at the time I needed help, but I also knew I needed to get a few things in order. And one of them that I needed to get my house in order and shit together with was one, strategy. And I'm very strategic anyway in my way of thinking. But two, I needed that plan of what was my biggest fears when I left that world. And mine was caught up in the fact I had my mortgage. And I said this the other day to somebody, like, I have got great parents where I know that if I needed something I could go to them, but I'm also financially independent in my mind. And I'm very stuck on that and stubborn, I guess. And so it was a non-negotiable, a bit of that I have to make success a non-negotiable and this happen. What's my biggest fear? My biggest fear is not paying my mortgage, it's not paying my bills. And worrying, like that state of fear and stress is worse to me. I can't manage that. So what do? I have to have enough money for the next 6 months so I can comfortably go all in on my business without that being on my mind. So, having plans, talking finances through, being financially literate, going to I got an accountant straight away. Yeah. Being wise to the decisions you're making will help you be able to make, again, emotionally the right decisions in your business when you're starting out in the first 18 months for sure. I think those are really important decisions to take. And that was a conversation again I had with my dad last night, that I did well this week, etc. But I said, time for money is so hard for me, Dad. I find it really hard going for the corporate, what we spoke about earlier. And I said, but actually, like, realistically, I look back and think I was too safe in the corporate world as well. They could have made me redundant at any point. So there's a level of security around money financially as well that we attach, and we do attach to it. And again, that part of we have to sometimes let these things go because that could be holding you back for the life that you want, or the next role that you want, or the next stage in a career, or whatever. However that looks, it's about, again, that higher state awareness. Where am I at? Where do I want to be? Yeah.
I think sometimes, though, people see money, the perception of money is very different to the reality of it. Yeah. And, so a friend once during lockdown, and everything about her is very luxurious, and like that's all she portrays. And we talked about smoke and mirrors today and stuff, and it was that kind of thing. And I remember her calling me and basically said during lockdown that she was literally 1 month away from absolute alienation. Like literally,
Yeah.
she was like, she had nothing. And it really made me give myself a tap on the back, because I always give myself a hard time that, I was sort of like 2 years to, sort of like complete breakdown and stuff. And there's people telling me that they're a month away. And listen,
Yeah.
I am not an expert on finances at all and stuff like.
No.
I've had to learn finances, and I still get it wrong, and I still, try and sort of like work my way around it and stuff. But yeah, I think that the perception of money is just very different. But also, people are too scared to ask. People are too scared to receive.
Yeah, that's huge.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like to receive. Funnily enough, I put in my group today, I said, if you didn't care about what other people would think, what would you ask for? I was like, if you just didn't care about what other people would say, what would you ask for? Because people sometimes think, oh, well, I'm being a bit greedy. People think, oh, I'm being a bit, I'm trying to, show up and stuff, or you know what I mean, like being a bit arrogant and stuff in what I'm asking for. And actually, you should be able to say, well, this is what I need.
Yeah, and that goes back to having good values, vision in your business as well with things, or
Completely.
for a business you're working for, that purpose is strong as well. I have that, I wake up every morning I want to give back more for my family and have a great life, and I also want to give back to others to have opportunities as well.
But I think as well, not everybody wants to be a millionaire.
No,
not everybody. That fear and stuff, like, you've been quite honest about your fear of making money and stuff. Like you said that it's more about thinking that it won't make you happy.
Massively.
You talked about that and stuff, and you're like, it's something that I know it's something that you're still working on, and you've been quite open about. For me, I got to six figures very quickly in my career. I literally probably worked less than anybody else and made it to six figures. I made it to six figures within a year of working, like leaving uni and working. I hit six figures. So to me, it was always so easy.
Yeah.
And my biggest fear, and I have got to six figures in my business, but my biggest fear is not going beyond that in my business, because I didn't have a choice going into business. It's my calling. It's what I'm here on this earth for. And I feel like I work harder to get to six figures in my business than I ever did in the corporate.
Yeah.
And that for me is my biggest thing and stuff. And I'm like, damn, how do it's like, come on. Like literally, all I had to do was just like show up, and I was getting more money. And this time around and stuff, so I'm working to like 2-3 o'clock in the morning to move stuff out, calling people, putting things through. So it's a whole different concept and stuff.
And I think, like you said earlier, that's why this is, and I've definitely seen that this week doing the course, like it's an ongoing process as well. It's not like an overnight thing. You're not done with this. I think it's investment of the, and some people say I hate learning. Like I love learning, but I think you have to be open-minded enough to go on that, new level, new devil, different. You're going to get, again, different challenges. You then get to six figures. What's the block? 7 figures. What's the block? Wherever. You have family. What's the block? That's the part where it's always coming up for people. And I think, again, talking things through, sharing it, having great people around you, those can be the things and differentiators that help you out compared to others.
Yeah. So as we're wrapping up, I want to say a few things. So the first thing is, not everything costs money.
No.
And the reason why I say that is because, as I was leaning into my current world of being a healer and an intuit, I manifested a £3 million house. Yeah. If you think of it from a logical perspective, and I was saying this to, I ran a workshop this week as well. And I was like, if I say to you, I want to move into a £3 million house, what's the first thing you're going to say? They'd be like, it's going to cost a lot of money. I'm like, exactly. It cost me nothing. And I lived there for a year and a half. I manifested 150 grand ticket to go see Tony Robbins, front row seats. Again, I know people who pay that yearly, and they have to make sure there's money in their account. So, you know, you have to find a way for life to work for you, and not think everything's going to cost money, but also, like you said, figure out what the money's for, and it can't just be for you. A lot of people get stuck thinking, well, I want, you know, a lot of time people come to me and go, well, can you help me to manifest money? And I'm going, I can, but I can tell you now that where you are right now, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole different mindset and vibration that you need to be tapped into.
Yeah.
And that's why, even this, you know, I told you on Monday that I'd taken 3 days off. I'd done a whole sabbatical for 3 days. And I came out of that and generated a lot of money very quickly and stuff. And being able to clear and declutter your mind to allow space for things to come in. Like, just don't even see it as money. Just see it as receiving is what I say.
You're spot on. And to round this off beautifully, actually, like going back to the start, it's energy.
Amen.
Massively,
Amen to that.
Isn't it?
Look at you, just wrapping this up. Well, that was great, wasn't it?
It's very good. On fire.
Yeah, on fire. On fire. Yes, cha-ching, literally. Well, we will see you soon, and we'll be talking about more interesting topics. By all means, if you are listening to this and you think, oh my goodness, I want you girls to talk about something in particular.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, let us know for sure. We're going to make sure that you've got all the details at the end of the podcast and stuff. But until next time, we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you for listening. If you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it with them. And we would love you to subscribe. Remember, the insights shared only have value when you take action.